Thank you. Thank you so much for joining us this evening. That was Firefly by Ryan George. And those of you, if you were kids in the summertime, you'd see fireflies floating around your backyard and going and chasing them, or lightning bugs as I would call them. You can kind of hear the elegance of the firefly dancing around your backyard, and little children going and chasing them in the summer evenings. So the next piece on the program is much less elegant. It's called The Fly, or La Mosca, as Oscar Navarro, the composer, calls it. So in this piece, it's portraying a man running around his house chasing this fly, this drastic fly that he cannot catch it. And you'll hear at the very beginning of the piece, you'll hear him kind of snoring, or not kind of, but snoring. So listen for the snore at the very beginning, and you can imagine through this entire piece of this person running around their house trying to get this darn fly. So let's see if we catch him. This is The Fly by Oscar Navarro. So this is always a very sad concert of the year. It's very happy, but also sad. And it's sad because we have some folks who will be leaving us. And completing his master's degree in wind conducting is Mr. Matthew Gallegos, who will be conducting his final concert as a graduate student. And after this, he will be pursuing a doctorate of trombone performance at the University of Kentucky. So we're very happy for him, and we're very excited to hear him conduct Saturn Returns by Michael Markowski. Please help me welcome to the stage one last time, Mr. Matthew Gallegos.
There we go. So, thank you all for being here tonight. Like I said, my name is Matthew Gallegos, and this is my last year here at TAMUC for wind conducting. So the next piece you're about to hear by Michael Markowski, Saturn Returns. Saturn Returns is based off this astrological term, Saturn Returns, the same term. The idea is every 29 to 30 years, Saturn returns to the spot where it was when you were born. And the idea behind this is that it's around this time where we start to kind of reflect on everything we've done, and we start to think about if we're doing the right thing, if we're on the right path. I couldn't think of any better piece, honestly, to kind of encapsulate everything that's been going on with me for the past 2 years. The way to put it is that this piece is just very much spoke to me a lot into what I've been doing the past few years. We started off with this kind of like really fast-paced heartbeat in the bass drum, and it kind of reminded me of like we're waking up and like, okay, this is the day, everything's gonna happen, I need to get through today, basically. And that's our first section, nice, fast, kind of exciting, but there are some things going on that you feel like aren't quite working out. And that leads us to our second section, this much slower kind of ethereal section. And this is where we get a lot of that kind of remembrance, and we start to do a lot of reflecting on what we've done. And if we're kind of happy with how we've been doing. To me, this section especially is where it kind of really hits home. Beginning of last year was incredibly hard for me in my professional career and in my own personal career. And that was probably the closest I've gotten to just quitting with what I'm doing. Like one more bad day and I'd be like, okay, I'm done. And this section really kind of reminds me of all the thinking I had to do and kind of reflecting and am I happy with what I'm doing? Is this the right thing to do? And for this final section, we kind of return to where we started at, but there's this kind of new feeling of uplifting and hope, like I've done that and I'm ready to do what happens next. It's returning to this first section, but it's almost to me like I've made the decisions I need to do, and I'm ready to take on what happens next. So this piece just really encapsulates what I'm doing, and I think it's kind of cool for me as my last concert that I get to perform with the same ensemble I started with 2 years ago, the Symphonic Band. So I'm super excited to be able to perform this piece with an amazing, amazing group of musicians, and I'm excited to see what happens next for them. So without further ado, Saturn Returns.
So the next piece on our program is called Freebirds by Scott McAllister. And Scott McAllister, he's a really brilliant composer. He's known for using pop culture references throughout his music, and we've done a couple of other pieces by him in the Symphonic Band over the last few years. But this piece takes or references Freebirds from Leonard Skinner from the 70s, right? It's the quintessential play some Skinner, right? Play some Freebird. Well, and one of the great things about working at TMUC is that I get to work with some really wonderful colleagues. And over last summer, I sent a recording of this piece to Dr. VR and Dr. Bronson, who are our clarinet professors, and asked them if they would be willing to attempt this very virtuosic solo duet piece with the band, and they graciously agreed. So we're really excited to present this piece with two of my wonderful colleagues and professors here at TMUC. Please help me welcome to the stage Dr. VR and Dr. Bronson. Thank you. Thank you very much. And we'll move on to our final piece. But before we do that, we have to recognize some very special folks who are either student teaching or graduating. And this will be their final band concert here at Tamuk. So when I call your name, please stand up. We'll start in the front row. We have Ericy Garcia, who will be student teaching in the fall. Yes, please. We have Amanda Tapia in the clarinet section, who will also be student teaching in the fall. Then we have Yamila de la Rosa, who just won a job as a professional mariachi player in Mariachi Arena de Los Angeles, right? Is that correct? Yes. And then Josh Gentile, the trombone section, he will be beginning a doctorate at the University of North Texas on trombone performance. And then we have Matthew Gallegos, who will be graduating with his master's degree and starting a doctorate in trombone performance at the University of Kentucky. So we'll conclude tonight's program with William Pitts's Auguries of Innocence. And Auguries of Innocence, the title is taken from a poem of the same title by William Blake, and it's a series of couplets that are kind of oxymoronic. And so one of them is, I see the earth in a grain of sand, I see eternity in an hour. So, and the whole idea of the poem is finding beauty in places where it shouldn't be, or where it often isn't. And I think about innocence, and the first thing that comes to mind is the Beatitudes from the Gospel of Matthew. It says, blessed are the pure in spirit, for they shall see God. So pure in spirit, innocent. And I think about our lives as we go through them. As little kids, we're pretty innocent, but as our lives take their toll and we become more and more weathered, we become less and less innocent, we might be a little bit more jaded or a little bit more jealous, or maybe have less than the purest of intentions as we do as children. And I think about that verse, and so pure in spirit, being innocent, and then for they shall see God. It's like, what would that mean? What would that be? And it reminds me of a time I was on the beach, and I was looking out at the ocean, and of course it's beautiful and amazing. But then, like maybe 4 or 5 or 6-year-old girl who I didn't know just came up on the dune and looked out at the ocean, and it looked like she was seeing it for the first time. And I wanted nothing more in the world than to view upon the ocean as that little girl was seeing it in that moment. And I think that's what it is. I think as we get older, we lose that innocence, or it's harder to see things for as beautiful as what they are. So that's what this piece is about. It starts with this very innocent ascending major scale that's right on the beat, and very pure sounding chords, and then very quickly things start to get more distorted and maybe less innocent, if you will. And then it almost gets to a point of like crying out for hope, like me wanting to see the ocean like that little girl was. And then towards the end, you'll hear, as we work towards the end of the piece, you'll hear actually a clock ticking in the background as if time's almost out. And then by the end of the piece, instead of hearing an ascending scale, you hear a descending scale that's all sorts of jagged. It's not on the beat, it's all over the place. It's like our life at the end. You know, we're a little ragged by the end, but we're going towards more of that innocence toward the end. And then the very last note of the piece is the purest sound in the band that the band can make, and it's a crotale hit, which marks the end of our life and maybe the quest towards innocence. This is Auguries of Innocence by William Pitts.